In this video series, I'll share with you a medley of mixed media techniques to create a heart or Valentine themed art journal and journal pages on paper and fabric. Using handmade and found tools and simple printmaking techniques using my new Graffiti Glam art stamps and tulip fabric sprays and paints. In this video, I'm going to share with you techniques for painting a variety of surfaces. I have some Osnaburg fabric. This is a super muslin. These are both by Rocklon, and you can find them at Joann's Fabrics. And then I've got some mixed media paper by Strathmore, and this is actually a rag, and I'm going to paint it and create a journal out of it. These are great. You can get them at the hardware store and use them for a variety of different projects. So I'm going to show you how I paint all of these. I am starting with some tulip soft paints, and I'm just going to drizzle. Shake them up a little bit. And this is a technique actually that was in my first book, Collage Unleashed. Taking a little bit of the different colors and drizzling them. If you're going to do this, you want to make sure that you're going to choose colors that will blend nice together while they're wet. If you use 3 primary colors, you're going to end up with mud. So I know that these colors will work nicely together. And create kind of that color scheme for a Valentine journal. So I can scrape off some of this on here too. I just want to clean this off, but I can also use this paper as part of the inside of the journal. And underneath here I've got some deli paper just to catch the extra paint that goes through. So I want to get most of that out and not have thick areas of paint, or it might take some time to dry. Let me take some of this out. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to cover every single piece. I'm going to do some more stamping and some other drawing on here to add color. So really simple, scraping the paint. I'm going to take a little bit of this lace, put that down, and use some of the fabric sprays. This is the same product, it's just in a smaller container. And sometimes you may need to clean the nozzle when you're using them, but you can mix them. Like that. And I can also go through the stencil if I wanted to with paint. And add a little paint onto my palette there. And paint through the lace. And then you'll see some of that come through. And there may be paint on the other side, so I'm going to flip this and roll over it with a brayer, just to pick up some of that excess paint. And you can see there was a lot of paint that came up off of there. So this is all about experimenting. You're not too concerned with the design yet. We're just layering and having fun with the different mediums. I'm going to add a little bit of paint onto my stamp here, and maybe add a stamped pattern. So just put a little bit of paint out. I like to use a foam brush. These tulip pouncers work great to apply the paint. And once I've got the paint on there, I'm going to take this and stamp it. And these are mixed media stamps. So what that means is I use them for backgrounds. And you'll notice the way that I work with them, they are more of a messy kind of background. Just a little bit of the color that peeks through. I'm not too concerned with like a perfect stamped image. I could mix colors right onto the stamp itself. But you want to put a nice layer of paint on here. Oops. I can also scribble into here. Right onto the heart area. And then stamp this again. Maybe down here. And so you can see where I kind of scribbled in there. So while this dries, I'm going to paint another piece of paper. I'm going to let that dry for a few and then add more layers. So that's the idea of painting on these fabrics, is to paint a little bit and then add to the piece as you go. You can also spray the paint right on there. Clean this. And I could roll it, actually. Get it nice and covered. Just going to clean this off on here. And then paint. Turn that over. So you can see if you get a lot of paint in there, sometimes you'll get a little bit of extra in between. So let me do that again. And I'm going to throw these in the water. I'm going to take some doilies, heart doilies. A little spray. Pick these up. And now I can still use these for collage. I'm going to save that. I'm just rolling over it to get the excess paint off of there. Turn that over and print the other side. So now I'm going to let this dry, and maybe actually before I do that, I'm using the Scribbles dimensional paint. You have to take out the inside, and I can draw right on here. And then I'm going to let that dry. I can also take a little bit of paint and use the stencil kind of as a stamp. So I'm just painting the back side of the stencil, and then I can turn this over. Maybe I'll put it on here as another layer. So I'll place it on to the paper and then roll over the top to transfer the print. And then you get the heart. Now I'm applying a couple colors of Tulip Soft Fabric Paint onto one of my Graffiti Glam stamps, then adding it to the next layer on the page. So I'm stamping half of it and then the other half on the other side of the page. One of my favorite printmaking techniques is using a plain transparency and drawing on top of it with Tulip Slick Dimensional Paint. And I like to doodle and write words and use this for a simple printmaking technique. Now that I've drawn the hearts with the white dimensional paint, I'm going to take the transparency and another piece of my artwork and layer on the white paint and take a print over the stamped background. This acts, once it dries, as a resist, and when you paint over it you'll see the white paint show through. This is a technique that you will also find in my book, Doodles Unleashed. So once I've press down the image, I'm going to pull up the transparency and it will reveal the printed marks. I've written words using the Scribbles dimensional paint, and now I'm going to take a print and apply it onto my other stamped and painted background. If you decide to write words and you want them to be legible, you'll have to write the words backwards so that when you take a print, they will be readable. I actually use my writing more as a mark making technique than to actually read it. If I want to read what I'm writing, I'll take another dimensional paint and just write directly on the background or the page. So there are a bunch of different ways that you can use the Tulip dimensional paints in art journaling and also on fabric. Stay tuned for more mixed media fun. In the upcoming videos, I'll share more stamping, printmaking, and stenciling techniques using the Tulip fabric sprays and paints.